Hi there and welcome. Okay, so today let's talk about how to fix the government quickly, easily and cheaply. Sounds impossible, but it's not. It's actually quite straightforward. You do it with a mixture of hubs, nudges, saves and implementation. Those four things: hubs, nudges, saves and implementation. Now, first of all, hubs. What are they? Well, they've become more popular in the lexicon the last 10 years. Hydrogen hubs, service hubs, a whole range of things, public-private partnerships, but especially in government. The concept is that you have a consumer, if you like, consumer or citizen-facing hub that helps people interact with government, whether they're a victim of crime and they need help and help with government departments and NGOs, charitable organisations, and the police, of course, and the court system, and then of course there's people who want to set up, build a house and they need a development application, so on and so forth, and they need a hub to deal with the council and the federal government, even state government, whatever. So they have one port of call, a turnkey solution, if you like, to deal with a whole lot of regulators at once for one issue. Because you want to encourage housing and construction, so you want to make it easy with a citizen-facing, consumer-facing hub that helps people do it, for example. Right? A victim of crime, they've been through a lot of trauma, you want to make it easy for them to deal with government, NGOs, the court system, so on and so forth. So you give them one port of call, right? Businesses who want to build a factory or build a housing project or enterprise, do all of these things. You want to make it easy for them, so you want a hub for them so they can talk to the local government, the state government, all the different grant bodies, all the different permitting bodies, all in one go. So the more you use hubs as a government and make it easy for citizens and companies, you'll get more compliance from citizens and you'll get more business and tax receipts from companies as they do things. Hubs. Make it simple, one port of call. Otherwise, people's risk aversion and their prejudices will lead them to believe it's too hard. You don't want that. So that's hubs. Nudges. You may have heard of Richard Thaler and other behavioural scientists. It's a matter of nudging through government communications, letters, notifications, getting people to comply, pay their tax on time, a whole range of things. The Behavioural Insights team, Richard Thaler set up in the UK back in 2007 with others, 2008, and it was a huge success, and it's still going. And it's worth having a look at, the Behavioural Insights team. And Rory Sutherland wrote the book Alchemy, about business, and Richard Thaler's book Misbehaving, after he won the Nobel Prize for economics. That's also very good as well, and the more you can nudge people, the better. But it's not just a matter of nudging. Hubs make it easy and really attract people. So you want to nudge people, but you want to attract them towards the hubs as well. You want both at the same time. But nudges can be something as simple as just adding an extra sentence, encouraging people to pay their tax on time. And Thaler talks about that in his book Misbehaving, which you should read. Okay, so that's hubs and nudges. The next one is saves. Well, obviously you want efficiency dividends, you want saving in government, and that means proper digitalisation, computerisation, so that you track what you're doing and you make saves there. But also saves, big word, it also means encouraging people to save from early on, save money, and it means financial literacy as well. If you can get people to save from early on, preferably from birth, if you can institute financial literacy, K through 12, so that's kindergarten through to year 12 at school, then you will limit the problems you have as government later. And people will go bankrupt, people will have a range of problems. You can't stop that, but the more tools you can build in earlier, with early saving, preferably from birth, plus financial literacy in schools, you'll make things a lot better. Those first three things, hubs, nudges and saves, you institute those, and you could cut government problems by more than 50%. More than 50%. Okay? Finally, implementation. Okay? Now you need a department of implementation. And we may think that we've got enough government departments already, but you need QA, QC, quality assurance, and quality control in government. You must have it. Okay? You're probably aware that in Britain there's still two pretty extreme cases whereby a blood poisoning problem back in the 1970s, early 70s, has not been fully resolved yet. Before I was even born, and there was the recent case of the sub-postmasters in the last 15 years who've been subject to prosecutions because of a faulty computer system. Okay, and they're still waiting on full proper resolution of that. Okay, now government's not good at critiquing itself, and certainly in the blood poisoning case where it's taken almost 50 years or more than 50 years to deal with that, you really need a specialized department that's almost independent, and they have the ability to start making redress early on to help people. Okay, because it's not acceptable, it's not excusable to have these sorts of issues going on for 1 decade, let alone more than 3 or 4 decades. Okay, that's not acceptable. Right? That's a delay, an inappropriate delay of justice, which, if nothing else, is against Clause 39 of the Magna Carta. Right? Justice is not to be denied, delayed, or sold. Okay, so that is totally unacceptable. And if Parliament wants the plenitude of power, which it has, that power is based on the high level of responsibility it has, and therefore it must execute that responsibility. And where there's a too hard basket, right, you simply have a department of implementation that manages it itself, and it specializes in that area. And it takes an aggressive approach, but you cannot leave people twisting in the wind that long, whether it be the sub-postmasters, right, or the blood poisoning scandal in the UK. And there's plenty of them in all sorts of countries. You just need a specialized response group, because it does become a paralysis inside government. You know, governments change, political persuasion, the bureaucrats bunny in the headlights. It's very difficult. You need a specialized department to do it that understands this area, and can make proper assessments, QA, QC, quality assurance, quality control, that they're on the right track. So you take it out from a situation of institutional paralysis, because it's so different to the rest of the ordinary business. Most of government works pretty well. We only hear about the bad stuff, and not all about all the bad stuff either, and some of the good stuff. But some of the very bad stuff has to be excised and put in a special department to get properly executed and implemented on, right? And aside from those two practical examples, there's also critiquing government as a whole in terms of their implementation. So you're getting response times down, implementation times down, improving implementation, and improving things overall for people. But that's in the worst case scenario. Department of Implementation. What you really want is to make it okay from day one. That means hubs, right? Consumer, citizen-facing hubs for government, so that people have a turnkey solution. That means nudging people into a proper relationship with government, whether it's paying their taxes on time or whatever else. Saves, making sure that people have savings and financial literacy to manage their own affairs so government doesn't have to step in. And finally, when all else fails, the Department of Implementation, to make sure that government is implementing fast enough, directly enough, appropriately enough, and certainly when there's disasters that have come under the government's umbrella, that they're dealing with it and compensating it. Government, swift, easy, and much cheaper than it is today. It's very possible. It's very possible. And it's just a matter of dealing with those issues that I mentioned. It is literally that simple. Tell me what you think. Email me at andrew.keops.au, andrew@keops.au. Thanks.